Thank you. I'm Imran Ahmed, founder and CEO of the Business of Fashion, and it's such a pleasure to be here. One of the things I absolutely love to do whenever I travel around the world is to meet young, new, emerging talent. And last night and earlier today, I had the opportunity to meet several young designers who are based here in Kuwait. Each of them has their own story, as I've learned. Each of them has found their own market opportunity. Each of them has a very clear perspective around which customer they're trying to reach. And so today I'm delighted to have with me Baza Al-Zuman, Fawaz Al-Yakut, and Haya Al-Abdul Karim to share a little bit about their personal and professional journeys. So but maybe, in order to introduce our audience to all of you, we could start with your personal stories of, how you first decided to get into the fashion industry, and what it is about your brand or business that makes it uniquely Kuwaiti, because that's what we're here to talk about today. Is like building emerging fashion businesses in Kuwait. Maybe Haya, we can start with you first.
Okay.
Since you look the least nervous.
I was trying to avoid it by sitting here, like the last one. But
you're directly in my eye shot. So, but yeah, what is it about? How did you get into building your company, and what makes it distinctly unique?
So I'll start with telling you about my background and how that kind of pushed me into the fashion industry. So I studied at Central St. Martin's. I did graphic design and print production, so nothing to do with fashion. But while I was there in London, I couldn't shy away from being in situations where I would be in fashion. So I was a gallery agent at the Fashion Illustration Gallery, so I was selling artwork that's related to fashion. I was interned several times at PR agencies. We were doing, London Fashion Week. So it was always an interest to me, but I didn't know in which part of the industry I would end up, being. So when I moved back, I started working, and then I worked at Four Concept Store, where I met the lovely Fawaz and Bezza sitting here, and I was a marketing manager there, and that also built up a lot of my interest in the fashion, just looking at the creativity of the designers that they had selected. They have an amazing selection of designers. They're always the first to stock the next big thing, and it's always a fresh thing, especially in Kuwait, because we're such a small community. To have that freshness, it's always inspiring. So I've always been around that, and then that's basically when I decided, I want to do something that reflects my ideologies, and also something that I could sell. So I started doing bags, and Harvey Nichols, I don't know if the girls are here, they're the ones who first purchased my brand and really pushed me into becoming an actual brand.
Why bags?
Because for me, I think your bag says a lot about you. And I told you earlier, even the name.
We even looked in Haya's bag to see what it said about her. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could wear whatever you wear, but the contents in your bag really talks about you and says a story about yourself. So how you carry yourself, what's the content of your bag? Like, do you have a lipstick? Do you have your keys? Do you carry a wallet or just a credit card? Whatever it may be, it's your own personal story. So I did that. And by also, always being interested in the environmental aspect of in recycling, and always being aware, even like in my lifestyle in general, it's something very important to me. So I wanted to do the design aspect, the creativity aspect, the fashion aspect, but I also wanted to do something that's a bit different. And also in Kuwait, we struggle with that. As a country, we're very behind in terms of the environmental sustainability and how to become more environmental. We're not there yet. We're trying to be. So I wanted to push people's awareness to it, and realize that every choice you make has an impact. Everything you do has an impact, whether you're drinking plastic bottled water or glass bottled water, it makes an impact. And that's what folklore represents.
Okay, thank you, Haya.
You're welcome.
Baza, what about you? I mean, you actually have a formal training in fashion design from Parsons. So maybe your journey into the fashion industry started a little bit differently earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I have an undergraduate degree in business, and during my last semester of college, I was applying to law school, and I decided to take a community college class, like outside of university, in sewing. And I never will forget the feeling of going to like Boston's tiny fabric market and like going into the stores with all these rolls of fabric and how in love I felt with the process, you know? And that kind of took me a few steps back where I was reconsidering what I wanted to do post-college. So I put off the law school idea, and I got back and explored more. In the beginning, it felt easier to go into retail, because it's like, okay, I know how to run a business. But I think I realized that I really love, and I have a perspective to share, like it's something that I want to express through design, which is why I went to Parsons and I got an associate's degree there. And I think that also relates to why I chose evening wear, because it's really, I think, the best way to express yourself, because it's kind of, you know, the most extravagant, the most luxurious piece of clothing you'll wear, no matter what your price point is, in an evening setting. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
And evening wear, we heard earlier from Rashad how important that is in this market.
Definitely.
Talk to me a little bit about, you know, the way you've worked, you know, with your brand to kind of cater to the market here, which is, you know, I guess during the pandemic, all the events went away, but clearly we saw last night, they're coming back. I mean, how integrated is your brand into this evening wear scene that happens here?
I would say fully. You know, something about the brand is I cater to the evening wear market differently, I would say, than other international brands or Western brands, in the sense that you know, the way we have parties is different. They're much bigger. You know, they're more extravagant. The sort of style that we go for is different. The amount of skin we want to show is different. You know, so I think that the evening wear, you know, side of things is. And also, as a shopper, previously to starting my brand, I think I never found kind of the aesthetic I was going for. It tended to be a little bit more simplified. Like the Western approach to evening is a lot more simplistic. So it came from a desire to bring that magic of fashion into a product that could be bought and not just seen on the runway, you know? And that's what I try to do. I try to design something that's wearable, that has the magic of fashion, and that kind of respects our cultural kind of traditions, our cultural norms, and then we have really big parties. So we get invited to multiple weddings a season, you know? So of course you can rewear an outfit so many times, but there's definitely, like, I think, a bigger market and bigger appetite for evening wear in the region than outside.
Understood. Okay, Fawaz, your turn. You also have an education in fashion at the Chambre Syndicale in Paris.
Yes.
But even your story into the fashion industry is also unique. Tell us about, you know, why you chose fashion and what makes your brand, you know, you're Kuwaiti and you're Swiss, right? So you have this duality in your heritage.
Yes. So as a child, I've always been fond of art and architecture in general. And I dreamt of being an architect. When I did my higher education, I have acquired a BA in graphic design. And after that, I wasn't satisfied because I didn't do the architecture bit. And I was also into fashion, and obviously men's fashion, because I was thinking of how I want to, you know, dress myself. You know?
Right.
So then, you know, one thing led to the other, and I was like, okay, fashion seems like an interesting scene. And I've always been in love with Paris. To me, it's like a magical city where, you know, you're in this Haussmannian, beautiful buildings everywhere, and it's so romantic. And La Chambre Syndicale just felt like the place because, you know, big names graduated, Valentino, Saint Laurent, and so on. So I went there, and, you know, French garments are you know, the quality is the best. The haute couture, it's like the highest level you can get with quality. So yeah, I studied there for around 2 years. After that, I got back here in Kuwait, and there was this lack of ecosystem, as we were explaining earlier. A cousin of mine, suggested an idea that we work on one simple concept, which is like a tunic dress made with linen, 4 colors and 4 cuts. And we did that, and it was a big success. We called it Khalayat, named after an abbreviation of his name. And then the brand grew. We joined Al Uthman for a kaftan event, and the DNA of the brand kind of grew. Elements started adding. The clients themselves add, they suggest ideas, and I'm always welcoming for challenges. I love the challenges. That's how the brand developed. It's not exactly represents me 100%, but hopefully this will lead me to one day a brand perhaps named after my name.
And if you were going to create that brand, how would it be different from what you're doing now?
So I'm very fond of la haute couture again. So the structure, not necessarily the embellishment and the embroidery, but this is something that is important. But I'm into architecture again. So how does, I don't know if this is clear to the audience, but when I think of architecture and fashion, I think, like the couturiers, like Dior, like Balenciaga then, like McQueen.
The people who had, the designers who managed to create even signature silhouettes with the shapes that they constructed, which we all know, the bar.
Yes, the bar suit. And
exactly, okay.
Yeah, and these volumes, but they're very refined and intricate, and you can look at the construction from the inside out, and it's all perfect and very fairy tale-like. So this is like an escape thing where I'd like to be,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we all know fashion is not a fairy tale. As much as the stories and the images that are portrayed in the media often like to paint these fairy tales. And the last 2 years in particular have been really challenging for anybody running a business. So I don't want to bring out any trauma, but I'm curious to understand how all of you navigated the last couple of years, because it's been really challenging. With events completely stopping, with stores completely closing, with the inability of meeting private clients in person. There must have been some challenges for you. Fawaz, let's start with you this time. How did you cope? And I understand Kuwait had one of the strictest lockdowns in the world. How did you cope, and how did your business make it through?
So basically, my business was directly connected to my income, which is essential, but it's also my passion, and it's my everything. And I just had to, face it and take a step back and take it easy for a while, take a break.
Was that hard?
It was, but I had to find other means to get by, and now I produce with another atelier, so it's not my own, but things are slow, but it's growing, so that's good. Otherwise, it did slow everything.
You mentioned to me earlier that you weren't even here for part of the lockdown, and you were working with someone else that was helping to realize some of. How did that work?
Actually, I meant that I wasn't here when this event was called. So because actually it's again connected, because of the pandemic, all the patterns and the embroidery motifs and the technical aspect of the brand has been archived. I've archived it, both digitally and physically, and it's with someone else. So in that case, if I travel or something, if I'm not available, I can still work remotely. And it's actually thanks to the pandemic that this happened.
That's like an insurance policy for you now.
True. And also it pushed me into e-commerce. So the pandemic, yes, it was very difficult, but there's the good side of it also.
Baza, what about you?
I mean, I feel like my story is a bit unusual because pre-pandemic, February, before COVID happened, I was so excited about my collection. I was like 6 years into it, and I was like, I finally know my customer. This is my strongest collection. And we went to Paris through Faux, and we were showing, and we got all these retailers interested. It was like the first time that was happening. Like Unas took us on for the first season, among other ones. So I was sort of lucky in the sense that they committed to, and I think it was, consignment, so they didn't have to pull out at the time, that they committed to this, and there was that whole boom in online shopping. So I surprisingly wasn't as affected as I would have been otherwise. What did change for me was kind of maybe the local customer who made up a lot of my income previously was a lot less than before, but they were even having small parties, intimate parties. So brides would come.
Secret lockdown parties?
Yes, there were lots
You
of them.
heard it here first.
Or they'd have photo shoots just for for getting married. So she'd come choose a ready-to-wear gown and just ask me to make it in white. And like Fawaz, I also launched my website. I was like panicky about it. I was like, "Where's my website? I need a website. I need a website." And also it gave me a chance to explore. So I started this kind of side brand, which I don't talk a lot about, which is like a casual wear through Doqi. And Fatma's here from Doqi. She knows all the local designers. And, we had been talking for a while. And finally, it became the chance for me to explore this sort of casual ready-to-wear under a different brand without affecting, my evening wear. I had the capacity. And the partnership's been amazing to the point where I'm like, okay, like I want to grow this and I want to grow that, So I think that it gave me, I was lucky in a sense, the timing worked for me. And then also I just dove in to other opportunities, and that's how I kind of mitigated the risk. And I think that the thing about fashion is it's not just COVID. You have to stay agile all the time. Every season, things are going to come up, So that's kind of how we dealt with it, and I'm really, really thankful and grateful, and I realized that I was lucky in that sense. And sometimes I'm like, I'm glad that I didn't kind of get into these stores before, because I think it would have been a completely different story.
Haya, you said you can tell a lot about a person by what they put in their handbag, but if they're not leaving their home and they don't need to carry anything anywhere, what does that do to a business like yours?
You're absolutely right. That was an issue because people weren't going out, so they weren't carrying bags. And it made me, try to find a solution in terms of design-wise, because I found myself carrying a small, little pouch thing where I put my phone in, because we were walking we had a 2-hour allowance to walk. That's that's what we did per day. So I was like, maybe I should do something similar to that. So with every opportunity, whether it's difficult or easy, you take it and you can learn from it. And the main thing that I've learned is working remotely. One of my main assistant was in India for 2 years, and we were working perfectly fine. She was in India, I was in Kuwait, and we have an online store since day one, so that was working. And we've had a boom in that as well, as you mentioned. It was crazy, but it gave me kind of like an awareness of like how I'm gonna move forward, what styles I'm gonna move forward with, and how can I push this business online. So that's the strategy that you have to think about.
It's interesting that you make that comment about the little pouches for the phone, because my partner just bought one for his mom. And I've been seeing these everyone's using, there's a whole new category of leather goods that has developed just for your phone.
And I ended up making a phone bag.
Yeah, so I think, the lesson from all of you really is that, I say to our team all the time, in every crisis, there's an opportunity, right? And it's amazing how, you said you have to be agile. I think you also have to have a certain kind of resilience to succeed in this industry, because it is tough, right? It is, every day will present you with new unexpected challenges. Not always a pandemic, which I guess none of us could have predicted, but really, being successful in this industry takes a lot of resilience. And it sounds like each of you found a way to find that opportunity in what was a very challenging moment. So where do you go from here? The world is opening up, events are coming back. We've heard that earlier today, that this market and the wider, GCC countries are all booming. What are the opportunities you're looking to go after now? Haya, maybe we can start with you this time.
Well, for me, honestly, I just wanted to go back to kind of showing the collection, because I struggled with that for the past 2 years, because I produced a collection just like Bezza said, and I was so excited for it, and it was like, this is going to be it, and then boom, nothing. So I'm just excited for that. To showcase my bag somewhere, like to acquire new retailers and just grow as a business and just create more.
Any chance you'll expand beyond bags?
We'll think about that for now. I'm thinking about some things, but not right now. No,
Okay.
I want to focus on what I'm doing right now, and it's handbags. It's affordable luxury goods.
Okay, and Bezza, you now have 2 businesses, and you had one before.
Yeah.
Now you're running 2.
Yeah.
Where do you take them from here?
I mean, there's a lot of decision making involved. My main focus is the evening wear brand at the moment, and because it took a long time to build these relationships and to build the brand, and to me, I want to make sure that continues and grows as well. So, I think I can manage both. But right now, I feel like my main focus is keeping my partners happy, keeping my customers happy, continuing to grow retail outlets and sales, and continue to just be consistent in that, and slowly expand organically. And then in the meantime, I think I've been thinking a lot about how to organize my time or organize kind of the fashion schedule in order to be able to do it all, or to do more. I don't know if all is the right word. So yeah, that's kind of like the plan. It's to go deeper into the brand and go deeper into the casual line, and then kind of see where that ends up.
Do you have any aspirations to break out of this region and reach an international market?
I mean, what you were talking about earlier today really resonated with me. When people used to come, and Kuwaiti women were one of the biggest supporters of my brand for many, many years, and without them, I would not have lasted this long. And I say that every chance I get, and it's so true. But I remember, they would always be like, عقبال العالمية, and we hope we see you worldwide. And I'd always used to find it kind of funny. It was a sweet sentiment, but I would tell them, I'm happy establishing myself here and in the region first. And I think that's where my strength lies, even aesthetically, even as kind of the product offering I have. So there's so much to be kind of developed regionally first. I would never say no, obviously. You always want more growth. But there's so much left to do for me in the MENA region, the Arab region first. And then if the opportunity arises, I would be more than happy to.
Okay. Fawaz, you and I spent a few minutes earlier today talking about your dreams. Do you want to share those with us?
Sure. Well, I look forward to continuing to refine my craft and the techniques and the tailoring, and to hopefully be able to find sample makers or to own a studio where I can do these advanced kind of samples or prototypes, and then take them to a suitable kind of manufacturer. So that would be my next step, as well as finding business partners, because as a designer, there's only so much that you can do, and you can't do everything. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to run out of time in a few minutes, and if you have questions, please have them ready, and I'll call on you in a moment. But I always like to end these kinds of conversations with asking for some advice. And there's lots of entrepreneurs or budding designers out there who are thinking of creating their own businesses. If you had one piece of advice to offer to someone who's thinking about setting up their own business, reflecting on the lessons you've learned on the fairy tale and the nightmare that fashion can be. What would be your advice for emerging designers out there?
Myself?
Sure.
Don't get into it.
Don't.
No.
Okay, why?
No, I'm kidding.
The truth comes out now.
No, if you're
Yeah.
really, really passionate, then go ahead. But there will be nights of, blood, sweat, and tears. That's normal.
Yeah.
It's part of it. So resilience, as you were saying, you need to be strong and.
I don't think it's often well understood by people who don't work in fashion just how hard it is to create a business from scratch. I mean, they make it look easy on those so-called reality television shows, which is the furthest from reality, by the way. It is like the opposite of reality, but creating a fashion business is extremely hard, right? And you're going to have to put in nights and nights and nights, as Fawaz says, of blood, sweat, and tears. And you're going to end up not just designing a collection, but you're going to have to be an accountant, and you're going to have to be an
Exactly.
assistant, and you're going to have to pack
Exactly
boxes. And Beza, what advice do you have to offer?
I mean, a lot, but I would say definitely passion, persistence. Those are the most important things to get through it. And then manage your cash flows. That's very important, cash flow. It's a very cash-intensive business. You really need to manage that. And I think the best way is to really focus on your product first. People really want to get into the glamour side of fashion or the dressing of celebrities. But like you said, all the designers that you met with like pages and pages of press and then no finances to back it up. So if you want to be in the long run, really know your customer and manage your cash flows. And if you get these two stuff, you can figure out the production and everything else, I think.
There's that business education coming through there.
Be you.
Yeah.
I can't agree more. That's absolutely true. You need to know the product so well. You need to do your research in terms of how you're going to produce it, where you're going to produce it, how you're going to finance it, and how you're going to move forward. And it's never easy. It's so hard. And, people don't understand that sometimes because they see, how a brand boomed from nowhere. And it's not like that. It's very, very hard. It's,
It's never a boom. It's never a boom. You see it when it's boomed, but it's never a boom. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no such thing as overnight success.
No.
Yeah.
No.
As much as they like to tell that story in fashion magazines.
Yeah.
I want to first of all thank all of you for your time, because I think you're all, by the way, so chic and elegant and creative, and it's always like really inspiring to meet people who've created their own thing, because I know just how hard that is.
Thank you.
So thank you for your time. We have a
so
moment
much.
for maybe a couple of questions. I always ask people to keep their questions brief and as a question, not a speech. So if you have a question, there's one in the back there if we have a microphone. You have 2 microphones. You can choose.
Hi guys, really thank you. That was very inspiring as a young designer myself. So I have a question in terms of your products. Like, how did you choose the right manufacturer for your products? Like, did it take you a long time, or do you produce here in Kuwait? Because I myself, I thought that I was gonna launch this year, but then it didn't happen because of the manufacturing. So I wanted to know, like, what is the process and, for each one of you?
I mean, for me, I chose to have my own sample room and production here. And it's so interesting hearing Eli Saab Jr. this morning say that Eli Saab was doing that now, and how the short lead times were important to them. They're important to me as well. You need to have that flexibility. It's really hard because there's no ecosystem. There is no kind of standard.
So, Beza,
But-
how did you do that, though? Like, how did you,
Blood,
like, when
sweat,
you
and
told
tears.
me last night that you had manufacturing
Yeah,
here, I was
yeah.
kind of
Shocked.
blown away.
Thank you so much. Thanks for appreciating that. I'm really proud of it. I think that I'm very persistent, number one. I also managed kind of to position my product in a way that was realistic to make here, right? There are certain things that you just couldn't do. That was another thing that I was flexible about. And then like we're just really, really like we spend a lot on quality control, and there is a lot of inefficiency. I'm not gonna lie, but we manage it, you know. And now I have like an employee dedicated to literally just checking the dresses before they go out, checking for like dots and mistakes, and as the process goes, but at the very end as well. So it takes a lot of education and investment in your team, but I like to give them a really good working environment so they don't leave. So, so it works out for them and works
There's that thing
out for
called
me.
the Great Resignation happening as well, right?
I hope not.
Haya or Fawaz, do you have anything to add?
For me, it's completely different because for me, it's leather goods. So it's basically impossible to produce here. So for my category, I mean, you need to do your research. You need to go and visit the manufacturing. You need to know where you're sourcing your leather or your fabric or whatever. So not only doing your research, you need to go see the working environment, how they're going to make your bags, how are they making your bags as well, not just how are they making it. For me, as a sustainable brand, it's very important that they only use, let's say, vegetable dyed leather, leather that's a byproduct of the meat industry, even the sourcing of like the lining, it's recycled organic cotton fiber. So all of these things, it's your research and the time that you put in your brand. Like I traveled with my husband twice. I traveled 3 times when I was pregnant to find a manufacturer.
Where did you end up finding one?
In Spain.
In Spain.
So yeah, in Ubrique, which amazing, huge brands produce there, like Loewe, Chloe, and the list goes
and it
on.
shows in the quality. I don't know if anyone's picked up Haya's bags, but they're light as a feather.
And it's on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be light.
I
so
was
you can
saying to
wear
her
it.
yesterday when I picked up the bag, like sometimes you pick up a handbag and it's like, but it's really light and it's clearly like very thoughtfully created.
Yeah, you have to do the research and you have to put the time and effort in it. And don't be discouraged. We've had such a difficult 2 years, so you have the rest of your life to do it. So don't be discouraged.
Thank you.
Fawaz, is there anything else you would say?
I would say that a designer needs to know the difference between sample making and manufacturing.
Yeah.
Because if you want to do both, it's a lot of headache and you need management to manage manufacturing. So it's a different department, whereas sample making is the studio where you become creative and you design and develop the design of the product. So if you want to get into production, you want to do it yourself, you need to know how to manage it.
Yeah. And the point that Beza made earlier, which is if you can have your sample room really close to you.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
It's, it just, the dialogue between a designer and the atelier that makes things, like the smoother that communication is, the better you can make the product. If you have to wait to ship things, samples back and forth, it takes a long time and it's really hard.
The guy, my manufacturer, is my best friend. I speak to him every single day video call.
Yeah,
That's
you have to.
so important. Like,
You
I wish
have
he was
to.
here.
You absolutely have
It's
to.
so important. It's
Yeah.
so important.
That's the other thing, by the way. When you find a manufacturer or you're considering a manufacturer, make sure your business is important to them. Otherwise, you're going to end up at the bottom of a pile of like much bigger, much more important businesses, and you won't get that daily phone call.
Absolutely. And when I went and I did the research, I saw 3 types of businesses, like the just a startup, the very, very established where they are asking like 20,000 per style, per production. I'm not there yet. And the other one, which is mid-range, but still doing amazing, amazing brands, but also it's a family-owned. So it's like the grandfather, the father, and now the son.
Yeah.
And they really care.
Yeah.
And they're passionate about what they're doing. So they're going to give that to you as well. So that's very important. And like you will create a close relationship.
Yeah. Okay. We have time for one more question. I see someone in blue over here. And then I think there was a third question back there. And if we keep them short, we can get to both of them. So let's do this one here first.
Hi. During your 36-hour stay here in Kuwait, as you mentioned earlier, I guess by now you might have sensed that we don't necessarily have the right infrastructure to build a healthy, well-made brand with high standard craftsmanship and to genuinely express ourselves without going through compromises along the way from quality aspects and brand building in general. In Kuwait, I think it's pretty obvious at this point it is unattainable. So from a higher achiever perspective, my humble question is, just like Bezza and Fawaz were saying, I manufacture here as well in Kuwait. Would you advise a designer to put their brand on hold, wait up until they master their work, considering all the challenges that we face here, and at least have a healthier infrastructure base, or to go through the struggle, evolve along the way, and just hope for the best?
That's a deeply philosophical question. I don't know. I mean, I certainly have some reflections, but I would first put it to the designers. Do you have any advice? That's, when do you know it's the right? I mean, fundamentally, the question is,
When is the right time?
when do you know it's time to give up and try another path? Or or do you know to just like keep
You have the business
keep
background.
plowing through?
You shouldn't
I
say
mean,
that.
never. If you do, it's your choice. Yani, I mean, I'm gonna have these discussions. I think she wants to hear from you, but for me, it's like, yani, I don't want to give up.
Yeah,
I
don't
want
give
to.
up.
And then, like, why
Never.
should I?
Yeah,
and like, somebody
never.
has to do it. Like,
Yeah.
do you want
Yes,
it enough? Do you
exactly.
love it
Yeah.
enough? Does it bring you
I
enough?
think that's
to the
right. I think it's like, as I was saying earlier, as everyone's reflected, like this industry, it's really hard. And I keep saying that over and over again because I just want that to really penetrate your minds, right? But then again, success, following your dream, becoming the person you want to be, building the company you want to be, having the career you want, all of these things are hard. That's what life is about. And it's through the struggle that we find ourselves and that we find a path that works for us. So it's very hard for anyone to make any kind of assumptions or give any kind of general guidance because everyone's journey is their own journey. But I always say, like, listen, if you're in one of these moments, I think about in my career or in my life when I've had these moments where I genuinely didn't know what I wanted to do, I didn't put pressure on myself to make a decision. I gave myself the space and the time and the environment to really just step back. And when I was a management consultant, I took 3 months off my work and I went and meditated in a forest for 10 days in complete silence because I didn't know what to do with my life, and that was where I gave birth to BOF. So you never know what's going to happen. I think if you just have to give yourself the time and space to really, go with what your gut tells you.
May I add something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Answering Amna Salim's question, never give up or never be on hold. Just go on, and even if you do something, you don't have to do it fully, but at least do something and be part of the change. Don't wait for the change, We're all struggling through the platform building, the networking, and so on, and the ecosystem. So, we need to all work together to make it a better
That's
environment.
absolutely right, Fawaz, because
Yeah.
I think the reason events like this are important is because they give a sense of community. One of the things that happened during the pandemic is I had a whole bunch of independent brands and designers reach out to me when the lockdowns first started. And they were all coming to me with the same question, which is like, how is my business going to survive? I didn't have an answer. And they were all asking the same question. So what we did is we brought them together. And to be honest, we didn't come up with the answer. What we created was a support system and a community that everyone knew they were not alone. And the worst thing in this industry is to feel like you're on your own facing these challenges all by yourself. Nobody can face any of these things on their own. We all need a community. And that's why I think, the efforts being made here, I genuinely believe having these kinds of events makes people understand that it's only through dialogue, sharing our struggles, being open about them. In fashion, everyone wants to pretend everything is perfect all the time. Anyone who's worked in fashion knows it's not perfect. beyond those glossy images and those perfectly posed pictures, there's struggle, there's hardship, there's all sorts of challenges that everyone's facing. And so, I really, I just commend all of these designers here for sharing their advice. And sadly, we're out of time. But really, congratulations to all of you for sticking
so
through
much.
it.
Thank you so much
And
for having
thank
us.
you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was such a nice.